Hello, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director here at USTA Florida. We're kicking off our fall series of podcasts with the topic of leadership, and this couldn't be more timely. Our board leaders have met this summer to go over our strategic vision and planning, and we wanted to give you a window into some of the discussions that we're having about leadership here at USTA Florida and for Tennyson, Florida in general. My guest today is Joe Watson. I met Joe back in April at the ASU GSV Summit in San Diego. Joe is a professor of practice at ASU, and he focuses a lot of his work with ASU on innovation and strategy. Joe joins me today to talk about leadership and what it takes to be good leaders in today's world. I hope you enjoy this podcast with Joe, and we'll be back later this fall with all new episodes of the podcast. So be sure to tune in to ustaflorida.com/here to serve for upcoming topics and dates. Joe, thank you so much for joining me here at Wellington Tennis Center today.
Laura, I'm delighted to be here. It's a beautiful day and a fantastic facility.
Yeah, Florida tennis at its finest, which you're getting a full look at today with our players out on the courts having a great time.
Well, they certainly look like they're having fun.
They really
I
are.
don't know. Maybe we should be there and not here.
I don't know. Maybe we need to get this done quickly so we can go out there and get some exercise.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, Joe, I want to start out by just asking you to share a little bit about your background and how you got involved in leadership development.
Sure. So, at the end of the day, I'm from New York originally, born on the 8th floor with a great view, as I like to say. And, that informed much of life's progress, and had the opportunity to attend school and then really start out working in the corporate world, believe it or not. And, running operations for states and, companies that are kind of household names and things like that, and kind of cut my teeth and really enjoyed that and learned about leading people and driving results and helping people through tough times and helping people celebrate great times. And I think that ignited really the spark and my passion for leadership. And then got into the business of really just advising and coaching and helping organizations and people to be better, to become better. And for me, that's what it's all about. And so I absolutely adore helping people to realize new things about their potential and how they can fulfill their potential.
Well, I'm happy you're here to help us with that. Certainly, you have such a joyful demeanor, and it's something that I really appreciate you bringing to us, and also, obviously, all of your background and expertise in leadership.
Well, you make it easy. I mean, honestly, your organization makes it easy. It does. I mean, the mission and it's focused on growing the game and bringing the game to everyone and increasing participation and helping people to find community and find competition and competitive spirit. It's a fantastic. So it's a joy for me.
Aw, well, thank you. Well, we'll see how joyful it is at the end of this interview. But seriously, you and I actually met earlier this year. We went to an event called the ASU GSV Summit. And the focus of that summit was AI-powered tools for education, right? So we were there in different capacities. And there were a lot of people there that were discussing leadership in today's world. So can you share from your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that leaders today are facing, and how might that require a little bit of a different approach than maybe in like previous years or even previous generations?
Yeah. Leaders today, we're in such an interesting time. When we think about leadership today, we're living in a world where it's constant change. It's constant shifting, uncertainty. There's also tremendous opportunity found within that as well. But all of those things that we think about operating in an environment and leading people means that things are maybe more tenuous for people. Maybe they feel that at various parts of their lives, not if it's not their life personally, maybe it's their extended family, maybe it's their community, maybe it's their place of worship. But these elements are making their way into our world in a very real way. And so the challenge for leaders today is to ask themselves, what is my role? How do I participate? What am I here to do? Am I here to give orders, or am I here to elevate individuals? Am I here to bring individuals closer to what is their real potential, to make it easier for them to contribute in a real and meaningful way? And in the world we live in, can I bring clarity? Because when you have a world of noise and you have a world where things are unsettled, the thing that humans have always sought most, almost always, is clarity. We want to understand, right? If it's good, we want to understand. If it's less good, we want to understand. But once we have that, then we can at least start to deal with it. And so for leaders today, I mean, that's the challenge, and it's a tall order for sure.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned clarity because I was on a call recently and there were some survey results shared about leadership and what people expected from their leaders. And one of the clarifying points that they made was communication is vitally important. It's the main thing, but not just communication in quantity, because you can communicate a lot, but if you're not providing really clear direction that's actionable, that communication becomes almost worse than not communicating at all. And I thought that was a really insightful comment to say, you know, sometimes as leaders, we're very eager to get information out, but it's almost better to pause and think about, what am I really saying here, right? Am I just updating people on noise that's happening? Or am I really prepared to provide them with, like, here's actionable information with clear direction? Or if I don't know, I'm saying, here's what's happening in the world. I don't know, but here's the next steps where I'm going to go find the answer.
You raise a fantastic point. I mean, you know, so many of the times, and not in a bad way, leaders are earnest, and when they approach their people, in most cases, they're doing the thing that they feel would advance the process, right? That would meet a need that the individual has, that their workforce has. But sometimes leaders can get caught into a little bit of a trap, which is they want to show their work, right? They want to show their work.
Oh, that's so good.
Right? And so their willingness and their eagerness to kind of show their work that they think will provide the solution is really the type of thing that can actually have the opposite effect, because people lack, to the point we had earlier, clarity on where they're headed. You know, I encourage people, you know, we publish a newsletter every day called Field Notes with CRA Admired Leadership. And there's a great one in there about understanding the map, right? And the map is not the territory. And so for everybody who's at home, if you're curious, you know, go out there and you can find it and you'll learn all about that, which is really understanding. People need to know where they're going.
I
Right?
love that. And I love that you shared those field notes with us, because it was really insightful. And I know our team found that really, really helpful as we kind of go into our communications and our exercises.
For sure.
So thank you for that.
Of course.
I want to follow up on my last question and talk a little bit about technology. In some ways, we think technology helps us. In some ways, it might hinder us. But how do you see technology, and particularly AI, changing the leadership landscape? Has it changed how we function as leaders, and should it?
Yeah, no question. I mean, so two things are happening, right? One is everything's speeding up, right? And AI is kind of driving that, but technology in general is driving that. And then the other piece is the human element, is we're becoming more disconnected from each other, right? And so as things speed up, I should throw in there attention too, right? So things speed up, right? We have kind of a attention deficit, meaning it's hard to get people to pay attention and kind of stay in things because there's so many distractions. And then all of that kind of feeds into us becoming less connected to one another as humans, which, you know, creates a little bit of a gap, and sometimes a big gap on our capacity to understand, our willingness to understand, the ease with which we're able to participate and spend time with each other. And so for leaders, they have quite a monumental task, because they have to recognize, as we talked about, you have a world where people are unsettled. Then you have a space and time driven by technology where they are losing their capacity maybe to pay attention as closely, and maybe that same technology is kind of pushing them apart further. How do they find each other as humans? How do they find each other as people? How do they find, you know, those commonalities, those threads that weave, right? Because when we have that, that's how we get really great things done. If you look all throughout history, right? The greatest things that get done are when humans weave together, not when they're apart.
And what's interesting about that is you almost, as a leader, have to create those spaces and be more intentional about that now. Like when you have meetings, are you actually allowing for the space for those human connections, or are you just, allowing for the distractions, right? Because
Great
you're
point.
just droning on and you're giving updates and somebody's looking at like their
Mm-hmm.
email or whatever over
Mm-hmm.
here. I catch myself doing that sometimes. And I'm like, when I'm meeting with people, I want to have a meaningful
Yeah.
human interaction.
Yeah.
I don't want something that I could just
Mm-hmm.
read or,
Mm-hmm.
engage with in a different way. So
Yeah.
I love that it's like we need more of that human connection now.
Well, we have to recognize that, sometimes we have to slow down to go fast, right? We have to slow down to go fast, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because so much of life we hear go faster, 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 faster. Use this tool, use this device, use this app, go faster, faster, faster. But the reality is sometimes we have to take that time and slow down.
Yes.
Slow down to build the relationships. To your excellent point earlier, slow down to explain,
Yeah.
right? To show the path, right? To do all of those things. Why? Because when the time comes to really go hard and to really run and to really push as a unit, right? We have the bonds.
Yeah.
But you're never gonna, if the speed limit on bond building is 65, you're never gonna build a bond going 110.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
The music might be great, but the bond's not gonna be built.
That's so good. Okay, so important question.
Sure.
What leaders today do you most admire?
Oh.
And what makes them so successful?
Oh.
No pressure.
I was gonna say, whoa. I mean, like, wow. All right. So let's do a couple.
Okay.
All right. So first, let me do my dad.
Okay.
Right. Who passed away not too long ago. That's all right.
My dad just passed away too. So
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mother Nature and Father Time, both undefeated,
Yeah,
right? It's the nature, but it puts into fine focus certain things that we learn. And one of the things I learned from my dad, he had a tremendously successful career and corporate career, but from humble beginnings. And he taught me a couple of really powerful things that have stayed with me. Two in particular, maybe I'll mention. The first one is the right to say no. I learned from a very early age the power of no. And I'll never forget my dad talking about, it doesn't matter. At the last minute, of the last 10 seconds, of the last second, before the moment, after you might have even said yes, no is still on the table. Wow. You own no, right? And as you go through life, the thing you understand is that no is truly a superpower. It's a super word. It's the word that preserves your time. It's the word that preserves your relationships. It's the word that dictates kind of, I think, in many ways, how you move through life and your values. But that word no and the relationship to no. So that's a shout out to Dad, right? In terms of learning that. And the other thing I took from Dad that was fantastic is he was always mentoring people. He understood the power of mentorship, and people would come and visit our home and they would have the opportunity to hear from him, and they would sit with him and talk with him about their goals, their aspirations, their challenges, and he would take and make the time for that to happen. So that was always special. Awesome. And so I think fantastic leaders do that. I'm also, non-religious statement here, but I also think one of the great leaders was Pope Francis, who passed away not long ago. And the reason I select that is that he was always fond of the big tent. Right? Understanding that regardless of the conversation, the point, what we were particularly covering, that everybody was welcome in the tent, in the conversation, during the conversation, before the conversation, after the conversation. I think that's a remarkable posture that all leaders would do well to remember. And then maybe one of my favorites I've been looking at recently is Mackenzie Scott, who's a great, fantastic philanthropist who I think has been so interesting what she's done for philanthropy, really reorientating how donors think about giving. Donors are great individuals who decided to give of themselves, to give to others, to enable their success and their potential. But what Mackenzie's done is basically said, I'm going to come into a space and time where I'm going to lean into philanthropy from the perspective that I trust the leaders inside of organizations to make the best decision on behalf of the organization, on behalf of the people they serve, on behalf of the mission they seek to fulfill. Like, I think that was absolutely incredible. And what's been so fun to watch in the sector is how her giving and the scale of her giving has influenced others to change how they interact with nonprofits and those who are on the ground delivering the services and the programs every day. So I love that trust-based leadership. I think that.
And I want to double down on that, because I think when I think about my own self and the growth that I've had, it hasn't come from somebody maybe instructing me how to do something. It's more demonstrating that they have trust that I do know how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
asking important questions along the way, that maybe I wasn't thinking through something enough, and it was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I see where you're going here, but what about this?
Mm-hmm.
But still expressing that confidence that, hey, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely have the ability to do this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to support
Yeah.
you and guide you, but I trust you.
Ugh.
And that's really powerful, and it's also really hard to do.
It's very hard to do, but at the same time, it's the unlock, right? At Admired Leadership, what we talk about is fanness, and our concept is fanness. And what we challenge leaders to do is be the biggest fans you can of your people.
Yes.
And the people you work for, so they know you're in the corner,
Yeah.
right? You're in their corner all the time. You're in the corner when they have massive success. You're in their corner when they fail,
Yep.
right? They need to know that when they turn around, no matter what happens, you're there, right? They give you opportunities to shine. They give you the feedback that you need to become better. That's what true fans do. And if you really think about it as a leader, when you show up in the office every day in the parking lot, something you can oftentimes ponder right before you go in is, am I prepared to be the biggest fan I can of my people today?
Yep.
Right? Of my organization
How
today.
am I showing up today?
How am I showing up? Because if you're willing to do that, right, then your people will show up for you.
Yeah.
This is not complicated. The world wants to make it complicated. It's actually not.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh my goodness.
We'll get to that closer to the end, but I did want to talk to you a little bit about what it takes to make like big and bold decisions and choices. So as you have learned, USTA Florida does have a little bit of a reputation for making these big, bold approaches to our market. You know, we just worked with the city of Cocoa Beach. We signed a 10-year contract to make a $1 million capital investment in our flagship managed facility.
Wow.
It's a very big, very bold investment that we're making to make that best in class, to create it as a center of excellence. And that's one example. There are many, many more. So as you've worked with our team, what stands out to you as unique strengths that we have as an organization when it comes to serving our market here in Florida?
I think the biggest thing for me that it just rings the loudest, clarity of purpose. And that can sound like such a small thing. It's not a small thing. It's not a small thing to be able to go from A to Z from individuals and everybody understand the purpose. The purpose, grow the game. The purpose, grow the tent under which the game is played.
Yes.
Right? And for everybody to lean into that and understand that takes investment of dollar, of real capital, right? Investment also of time and incredible volunteer resources and what they give, right? Time is the most precious asset of all. I mean, certainly we appreciate capital, but capital at the end of the day is a tool, right? Capital is a tool, like a pen and paper, right? There could be bigger tools, right? And certainly that level of investment is a bigger tool, right? But at the end of the day, time is the most precious resource. Whoever figures out how to invent more of time, they will own all the toys, right? We'll be having this conversation from your own private island, and we got there on your own jet, right? At the end of the day,
that's what time happens.
I hope it does too. I'm preferable to an aisle seat. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
I'll connect you. I like the window. So
then it works, right?
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times we're asked in our organization, or we're pressed to say, okay, if I give you, $50,000, $100,000, like, how can we grow the game? And my answer to that is, it's not the money that grows it. The money is, like you said, it's a tool. But in order to grow and to execute, you have to have the humans, and you have to spend the time there, and you have to make that commitment. And I think there still is this tug and pull of, the dollars. And to me, it's like, you can have a really big growth initiative that doesn't cost you very much at all. It costs you human capital. You can have a growth initiative that costs you a lot of dollars and not a lot of human capital. And part of that is just truly understanding and having that clarity of purpose and saying, these are all resources at our disposal, and how do we get there? How do we constantly be saying, what's the right combination of resources and energy to get us there?
And what do the communities that we want to reach,
that's right,
how do they want to be communicated to? Where do they want to be met? Right?
What What
conversation do they want to have?
That's right.
Because, I mean, the one of the worst things you can ever do is, yell charge and run up the mountain, and you're like, where is everybody? Right? Where did they go? They were like, look, we're off Tuesdays. Right? You decided to charge it. We're off Tuesday. You should ask.
That's so true. So true. Okay, my next question gets back to something you said earlier. So, the blessing and the curse of digital media today is that there is just this overwhelming amount of like leadership content, right? This is what we're doing right now. We're generating leadership content. I find for me, it's a lot of noise, and it's actually getting more and more noisy, right? So how can those of us in leadership roles cut through all of that like stuff and get some real insights into what mindsets and behaviors that we need today to lead people forward?
Yeah, and this will sound, but it's not a plug, but I would read field notes every day by Admired Leadership CRA. And the reason I say it's one of the most widely read leadership daily newsletters that's out there, right? And it's a really short bite. It's made to be read in a minute. But here's the point why it matters, because in that are always things you can do. And that's what I want to come back to, right? And that's why I mentioned that. When you're looking at evaluating sources, there are lots of sources that will offer you things on how to feel, psychological components of how to approach work and things like that. And those are all vital, and those are all critically important, and they play an impactful role in the work that's to be done. But the key element is the behavior that's attached to it. It's the what do I do? So as you're evaluating tools and resources and strategies, the question to ask is, am I going to learn what to do?
Yes.
Because what to do is the key link in terms of connecting to the individual, right? Because people think it's words. Words are just that. They're woof, right? People measure you by what you actually do. And as a leader, what you do tells people who you are authentically. So oftentimes people think they can just show up. They put together a perfect speech, they can offer certain terms, and then when their people are coming behind them after the great event, going to the elevator, you know, they see their people, they pretend they don't, they let the door close in their face. That's what people remember, right?
It's so important, too, that I think for a long time, I would see a lot of content that was like, you know, advocating for be a servant leader or be this type of leader or that type of leader. But to your point, there weren't behaviors attached to it. It was just sort of like this personality type or approach. And I think one of the things that I appreciate, I was reading an article and our team was kind of working through it from McKinsey, and it was talking about these 5 behaviors. So it was like, how do you turn this growth mindset that you have, and it's grounded in, you know, what do the most successful leaders do? What are these common behaviors? And so things like we talked about earlier, like, you know, having clarity, but also really maintaining that focus on growth and versus the quick wins. Which sometimes it's easy to get dragged into that, like, oh, if we do this because, you know, it looks like it's something the customer might want, and they might be like, thank you. And so, okay, let's do that. And it's a quick thank you, or it's a quick burst of excitement or enthusiasm, but it's not really getting us to that long-term growth posture.
That's right.
So having that discipline to say no, like this looks really good on the surface, it's a quick win, but I'm going to say no, and we're going to have those behaviors and those disciplines that allow us to maintain that focus on the growth and investing in people, which I thought means more than just, you know, dollars, salary, benefits, those kind of things. It's investing in them as a human being and understanding where they want to be and meeting them there, which is a lot harder than just saying, hey, I'm going to pay you a lot of money or whatever, and then you're never going to see me, right? So you might be happy financially, but from an interpersonal perspective, there's really no relationship there.
Correct, right? And that's when your email gets ignored, right? At night, right? I'm just saying, right? Where people show up. I mean, you know, and in that, you know, an interesting thread and everything you mentioned is just the idea of consistency, right? Consistency matters. Like being consistent, like people understanding who you are consistently, right? What your values are consistently, how you approach the work, how you approach the oversight, right? All of those things. Like that consistency creates for people the space. We're talking about the safety, right? The willingness, the environment, which where they'll make choices because they understand, right? I mean, people, I would say leaders, I cannot put a bigger asterisk next to consistency because, and by the way, your people will know in a minute when you're not consistent, right? That's so one of the things, right?
Like
people
this is out of character for you.
People
This
show
is
up.
different than what you said.
Oh, and all of a sudden they're being fantastic. They're fantastic Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. They're fantastic. Next Monday, Tuesday, they're fantastic. Wednesday, not so much. See, I knew. I knew they must have watched something on the treadmill and they came in here, right? Now they're back to who they were, right?
That gets back to what you said about the world we're in being, there's a lot of questions, stability, those kind of things. I think the more that I see the world through like my niece and my nephew's eyes and they're young adults, it's like there's a value to stability and saying, I know the organization I work for is stable. I know the humans I'm going to get when I come in every day. And I think there's a value in providing that stability, that clarity of purpose, the clarity of what's going to happen, and saying, okay, we told you we're going to do this, and these are the exact steps that we're following.
That's right.
Even if we don't know the answers today, this is how we're going to get there.
Yeah, no, there's no question, and that's invaluable. I mean, at a core level, it lets people breathe.
Yes.
Right?
Because they're not worried.
And last time I checked, breathing's pretty important, right? I'm just saying, right? I mean, it's pretty important, okay? And, it extends out into all facets of our life. And so when we can give people the opportunity to breathe and inhale and exhale, that's where innovation comes from.
Yes.
That's where risk comes from.
Yes.
That's where people see the best new ideas. That's what people see what they need to start doing.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's also where they see what they need to stop doing, right? That all comes from when you can breathe. But if you can't breathe, right, then you can't get to any of those things. And like any good leader, the thing you have to understand is when your people can't get to those things, then you've introduced more risk into your business, right? Then the very thing you think you're there to actually get done actually becomes riskier, right? Because those conditions don't exist in your environment.
They don't foster that ability to take those big, bold
That's right.
moves.
Oof. Big, bold moves.
Big, bold moves.
I like
That's what we're here to do. Well, we're going to breathe. So.
It's a good thing. We don't want to call flashing lights.
Please no. It is a little warm in Florida today. For a New Yorker. For me, I'm not even sweating.
Right.
But for you, we're going to...
I'm not mad at AC.
No. We're going to close our podcast today, and it's just been such a pleasure to get to know you, Joe, and to work with you, and I appreciate you joining me today to share these insights with our wonderful audience.
I was delighted to be here, and just a shout out for the tremendous work USTA Florida is doing. I mean, I love every person that we talk to says, we are here to grow the game.
Yes,
it doesn't get much better than that.
All right. Well, it's a great one to end on, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Here to Serve podcast live from Wellington Tennis Center. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Joe. Remember, for all episodes of the Here to Serve podcast, including upcoming topics, guests, and dates, visit USTAFlorida.com/here to serve.